Friday, 2nd of November, you're back in business with me, Harsha Subramaniam. Godrej Properties has seen a 67% rise in its net profit, backed by strong volume growth. So how is the property market shaping up? Pirojsha Godrej, MD and CEO of Godrej Properties, now joins in. Pirojsha, many thanks for joining us today. What is your own assessment of consumer demand right now? Are you seeing demand bouncing back in the second half of the year, particularly during the festive season, a lot better than what was seen in the first half?
Harsha, great to be with you. I think while certainly for the industry as a whole, I think volumes have been a little bit down in the residential space, and commercial demand has also been a little bit of a concern. For Godrej Properties, at least in the residential portion of our business, we've seen very strong demand already in the first half of the year. Our bookings for the year, which is total new sales for the year, is up by 200% for the first half and is actually up by 326% for the second quarter. We've had a very successful launch in Gurgaon in a project called Godrej Summit, where we were able to sell 1 million square feet in a single day. We've had more recently in October, which is of course part of Q3, two very successful launches, one in Bangalore where we've sold 250,000 square feet in under a month, and one here in Mumbai where we've sold in our project in Vikhroli, Godrej Platinum. We've sold about 50% of the launched inventory of the third phase of this project within about a week. So I think we've seen reasonably good demand for good quality projects in the right locations. But certainly I think your point is very well taken that the second half could be much stronger. It's been very positive to see over the last 6 weeks that the government has gotten serious about economic reforms. I think the finance minister has brought in a huge amount of momentum into that process. If that unfolds and is coupled with interest rates declining, which we expect to see over the next few months, then I certainly think there is much further upside for real estate demand.
Pirojsha, just give us a sense of the new launches that have been lined up, specifically with respect to your property in Gurgaon. Is there a phase 2 in the offing? Can you give us a sense of what timelines that you have in mind?
Yes, Harsha, for that project specifically, we'll be launching the second phase actually in a few days, so we're quite looking forward to that. Of course, the second phase now will focus more on ensuring we get very good margins. I think the volumes in the project have already been established. We also do have a large number of other launches. So between Q3 and Q4, we expect to launch either new projects or new phases in existing projects in 7 cities, and there will be about 10 launches. So I think the launch calendar for the remainder of the year is very busy, and we're quite optimistic about the kind of traction we're likely to see based on the results we've seen from some of our recent launches over the last couple of months.
The street has been closely watching your margins, Pirojsha. With these new launches that you've planned, do you see the possibility of your ability to price higher? How do you hope to improve your margin performance?
I think that's very right, correct, that the street has been focused on it. It should be focused on it. We are very focused on it, and we feel pretty confident that the new projects we are launching will allow us to improve our margins. I think our margins in Q2 were already quite good at 31% EBITDA margins, but that was through some one-time measures. So I think on a sustained basis, we feel confident that given the kind of new projects we're launching, for example, the launches I mentioned in Gurgaon or in Bangalore and Vikhroli, all of these are very high margin projects for us, and we do expect through these to improve our overall margins. I think we did have a few quarters where margins became a concern, and that was largely because input costs over the last 2 years had increased by 20% a year, which is of course a very large level. We've seen those costs now starting to plateau, and the kind of project mix that will be contributing to our revenue going forward will also be more favorable, we hope. So certainly on a long-term basis, we are very focused and very confident that we can and will improve margins. Some of the short-term pressures from some of these existing projects continue, but we are finding solutions even on those projects.
I understand you have about 1,600 crores of debt on the books, Pirojsha. How do you plan to deleverage this, and is there any requirement for you to raise capital right now?
No, Harsha, we feel very comfortable with where our current gearing level is. As you mentioned, we're at 1,600 crores of net debt. That number is actually substantially lower. At the start of the calendar year, at the end of Q3 of last financial year, that number was about 2,000 crore. Our gearing level has gone from 2:1 at the start of the year to just over 1:1 at the end of the first half of the financial year. So I think there has already been positive momentum on that. We've raised equity in March through India's first ever institutional placement program. So I think we feel very confident and comfortable with where our current gearing levels are. On a long-term basis, given that we've said that we now want to focus almost entirely on the residential space, we do feel that we can get more and more efficient and bring this debt number down on a long-term basis. But I don't think that we are in any way uncomfortable with where those levels are currently.
While you're focused on the residential space, Pirojsha, I understand you're also, there's a project of yours coming up at Bandra Kurla complex in Mumbai. Would you see that, would that be a change in strategy? Would you see yourself venturing more in the commercial space as well?
No, I think that is a project we added last year. We're very excited about that, and I think the good news is that project is now ready for launch, both from a sales perspective and construction perspective. Also, I shouldn't say ready, it will be ready, we estimate later this quarter. So I think that project will kick off. When I said we'll focus entirely on residential projects, what I meant was for any new project that we add to our portfolio. We do have some existing commercial projects in the portfolio. The most important one is the one you mentioned in Bandra Kurla complex. We also have a project in Vikhroli which is going very well, and we have 3 projects between Kolkata and Chandigarh where the commercial markets have been a little bit slower. But that is basically the 5 projects we have that are commercial projects. But for any new projects we add, we will focus entirely on residential projects. So for instance, over the last 18 months, we've added about 14 new projects, and the only commercial one out of all of those was our BKC project.
Pirojsha Godrej, we leave it there. Many thanks for joining us with those details on Godrej Properties and its earnings. Up next, Stephen Davis of Javelin Wealth Management on US elections impact on the financial markets. Back in business, 2 minutes.
On a short-term view, a Romney victory would perhaps be viewed as reasonably positive for markets.